What's happening, Ronin, man? You know that old story? The guy's lost in the countryside. He stops, he asks the farmer, says, how can I get to, I've been lost for a long time. I can't. How do I get over to that place? The farmer thinks about it, looks down, thinks about it. He finally says, you can't get there from here. And, the wisdom of that statement is it's very wise. I mean, obviously the farmer knows you can go a long ways, but what he's trying to say is you're on the wrong track of thinking, right? You need to make major changes and accept maybe mistakes, right? It's a difficult thing, right? The situation you're in. And a lot of guys find themselves in extremely stressful situations, whether it's divorce, abusive relationships. Some guys, definitely, I hear a lot from guys who have very difficult time getting affection and feeling like, how can I win this game? It's rigged against me. Young guys that are dating. There's financial things that that guys go through. Obviously, divorce is one of them, probably the main cause of man's financial stress. But what can you do? Okay, because you can't get there from here. So you're sitting there thinking of ways to do this, ways to do that, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It doesn't even start to work. So what can you do? Okay, the first thing you need to do, I would really recommend, is to realize that you can't get there from here. So thinking about the situation, considering it, going over and over and over and over, thinking, what did I miss? Was there some mistake I made? What blog post can I read? What expert can I listen to? Is the situation, if you're listening to this now, if you're still listening, you know what I'm talking about. It's one of these things where you kind of know, like internally, that you're not going to be able to fix it. Like you've already thought about everything. You've already gone through all the details. You're a smart guy. You've considered everything. And you kind of know that it's just, at this point, it's almost like a rat in the wheel, right? But then what do you do now? Because it's one thing to have the problem, but it's another thing to have the circular thinking and the rat in the wheel, because there is some, what is it called? Like your brain gets some reward for being under stress. There's something, once you're in that wheel, there's a point where you start to not enjoy it, but you know what I mean? I'm saying, like your brain's like, let's get fired up again. And there's this hope that maybe this time you're going to think of the solution, right? Okay, so if you find that in either right now or, you've had this before, here's one thing. I got to tell you right now, the reason why I make, a lot of these episodes, not every episode has different motivation, but one of the main reasons is I've been a self-help guy since I was a kid. I bought my first Tony Robbins tapes. I think it was Awaken the Giant Within. I bought the tapes, the physical cassette tapes, at the thrift store in San Juan Capistrano. I remember exactly. I saw it there. It was like $2, and it was like, and I remember I had seen them on TV, and they're like $100 or something like that back then. And I was like, $2? No way. I'm going to try these. And that was my first self-help product that I bought. And ever since then, I've been very, very into finding ways that I can improve my life, trying different things. Like I'm the kind of guy, like I don't mind reading a book that doesn't help me. I'm not like, oh, it was all not worth it. I'm like, okay, well, I'll try another one. It's like, I'm going to find, if I find one good piece of information, I'm like, damn, I didn't know that before. That is solid information, right? And that's the way I've accumulated so many ideas, is because it's because you have to go through a lot of crap to find something worthwhile. Right. Now, here's something that I have never, ever heard, and this is just my own unique thing, and this really, really works for me. So whatever stress you're going through, it doesn't matter. It could be divorce, it could be cancer, it could be death of your parents, it could be being homeless. Literally, it could mean being homeless. There's one guy, I forget your name, but shout out to you, who was a very talented guy, has had a good life, but he's homeless right now, and he listens to the channel. And I love that guy, because that is the kind of spirit that I've always had. I've always had that spirit, no matter, and I've been down, man, big time, big time. And also I've helped a lot of guys get out of that situation in my own personal life, just my own life. So I understand that kind of thing. And somebody who is in that situation and is still looking for answers, dude, that's gold. Because that guy's going to figure it out. There's no doubt about it. You know what I mean? He's going to comment. He's going to be like, oh, yeah, now I'm doing this now. That was a tough time, blah, blah, blah. It all seems so easy, but it started with that spirit the guy has. Okay, so here is a very, very powerful thing you can do. And this is specifically for men. Okay. Look at a lot of the great thinkers in life. Okay, you look at Charles Darwin. You look at the way that he thought. Okay, the way that he thought was he looked at nature. Okay, forget the theory of evolution. Forget all that. That's all later. What did he do first? He looked at animals. Okay, he looked at the world around him. So this is a fundamental difference, and this is where science came from, Western science, which, by the way, was pretty much all men. I mean, there are a few examples, exceptions, like Madame Curie and things like that, women like that I definitely give kudos to. But in general, science was invented by men. Now, what is science? Because today science is like, just some crap on the internet. Science is looking at things and testing and asking questions. Okay, so with that in mind, and if you look at a lot of the great realizations, they came from looking at things. Here's a little story for you that I thought was very inspiring. There was a bunch of students who went to get an MBA. I can't remember if it was Harvard or it was some famous school. And when they finished school, they all went to Wall Street. And this one girl, I think she was Indian American, I think, if I remember right. Anyway, she couldn't because her family had a farm. And so they told her, you have to come back and you have to help with the farm. So here she is. She's just finished, like, let's just say it's Harvard. It doesn't matter. It could be Stanford. I don't know. But one of the big MBA programs. And here she is. She's back at the farm where she tried to get away from, right? So she's sitting there and cows are walking around, and she's like feeling like, obviously she's not feeling great about herself. She's wondering, why did I do all this work, right? And all my friends are wearing nice clothes and they're in nice offices and blah, 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 meeting exciting people. And I'm looking at cows, and anybody who's been on a farm for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, it really, really, really is slow, especially if you don't want to be there. Okay, so she's looking at the cows. Now the cows, they always, when they go get food, they always had to go into this little, like imagine like a wooden walkway they'd put out, like a bridge basically, and the cows would all go over the bridge to go eat or whatever, get water. I don't know what it was, but the cows had to go up this bridge thing, and so when the cows would go up the bridge, they would always slip. So one cow, the bottom of the cow's hoof is not very grippy, right? So and it would become muddy and slippery, and the cows are obviously very heavy. So when they went up the thing, they would slip and they would fall back in the other cows, and the other cows would kind of like all fall back a bit. Then they would kind of push forward, and then the one cow would get up, and together they would kind of get finally over this thing. And so she's looking at that. And then that was in one specific incident. And then she's out doing something else, and she sees cows going up another ramp into a truck. And same thing. The cows are slipping all over the place. And so she goes and makes kind of like a sandpaper grippy thing and puts it on the thing on the ramp. And one of the cows walks straight up. That invention she patented, and she became very wealthy. And she was back at Wall Street with her invention, with like huge cash coming in. And also she was seen by the world, and I see her as a doer, as somebody who actually does something real in life. And if you've ever had a company, hired people, you have people come in and they talk big, right? They just talk. But when you see somebody do something, okay, like actually fucking do something, that is very impressive, because most people, they don't, right? They talk about losing weight. They talk about getting into shape. They talk about doing this. They talk about saving, but they actually don't do it, right? So the doers in the world are the ones today is the smart people, the Elon Musks, the entrepreneurs. They're looking for people like that who actually think of something and do something. So, okay, that as a motivation for introduction. So now on to the what I think. Actually, I'll do a little more introduction. Okay, so when I was growing up, I talked about it before, the time I ran out of water in the desert, my friends wouldn't give me water, and that whole scenario. I can put that link below. I got a lot of feedback from that. And that was my high school days. And I grew up in it wasn't a big city, it was a small city, but there was a lot of action. There were a lot of things going on. And my friends were backpackers, and they loved to climb in the mountains and, just get out of the city, get out of the town. And so I started going with them, and that started, I guess my love for nature started before that, because we used to go camping. And I had a hard time sleeping because I was so excited to be camping. Like, I'd wake up as soon as the sun came up, like 4 a.m. or whatever, 4:30 in the morning, I'd be up. It wasn't even light yet. And I'd be out trying to start a fire. I'd be like hiking around, climbing, listening to the two birds, like looking at things, playing with rocks, snakes, whatever I could find. And that was like something as my boyhood. We did a lot of traveling. We lived in the middle of nowhere a million times. We'd moved all the time. And we were always in these little small towns, like you guys know, I grew up mostly in a trailer. So we was like just little shitbag towns with nobody, like not even an open store, just like nothing, right? And so what I would do is I would play behind basically abandoned buildings, and I would start to look for things and build things and create ideas in my mind. And it was in nature. And although it probably didn't seem like nature to my parents, because I'd be just, if you could see a video of me, it was probably me just behind the house, right? But I was looking out to the desert, because imagine this is the time when there wasn't much development in the desert. It was just like completely empty, right? So my imagination as a boy was like looking out there. In my mind, I was climbing the mountain. I was doing this. Even though I was probably only a few meters away. I'm talking when I'm very little, from the house. But this was the beginning. I was my imagination, like I could be in my house with my family. There could be arguing, there could be alcoholism, there could be craziness, there could be violence. But I would go out and then I would look at the ants, right? I would look at I'd get a stick, I'd move the ants around. I was never a kid who wanted to hurt animals. I was always like trying to help them do things. Like they wanted to cross the little river thing, so I'd make a little bridge for them, right? And, they were all scattered around and make a little house, right? They'd try to get them to go in there. I wasn't always successful, but I was kind of looking at things and I didn't realize it at the time, but I had discovered something very deep, because what I had done without knowing it is I had basically, you can't get there from here. There was no way for me in my house to figure things out, to understand life, to make changes, to become peaceful. It just wasn't going to happen. I was too young. I didn't know. I didn't have any control of what my parents were doing and what the neighbors were doing and what was going on around me. We were often in situations that we weren't surrounded by guys in tuxedos, let's put it that way. So I could not control that. That was too big for me. And I was too little. But what I could do, and a lot of people would say that I went into my imagination, but that's not it. That's not what I'm talking about. I am not talking about going to your imagination. What I'm talking about is looking at things. And I talked about this a little bit before. I hinted at, imagine that you have a 24-hour CCTV camera, HD color on your head, and you're recording your whole life. You're just recording. You're just looking. And that's what I was doing. I was just totally at peace, looking. And then I would just look around. After looking around for a while, like a robot, beep, 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 something's happening, right? The ants. And then I would go down and look at the ants, and I wasn't trying to do anything. Okay, just imagine I'm just like a little kid. I'm down there looking at the ants, and then I'm seeing what they're doing. A lot of times they wouldn't be doing much, Sometimes I could do things to move them around, or I could add some water or something. I could make them do stuff. But also, I would say mainly what I did was watch them do stuff, right? And that is actually very deep, because most of your life is fake, okay? Most of the things you do, most of the things you think you like are just fake bullshit invented by some marketing guy. And that could be you. You could be the marketing guy who invented those things for other people. And when you invent something and you make it and other people do it, that's actually hilarious, because then you can see it from the outside and you realize, holy moly, here's the thing. You want to look at life. You don't want to judge. Don't try to figure out all those things that are on your mind, how you're going to do the divorce, how you're going to get into shape, how you're going to do this, and why you're stressed out at work, or all this stuff, like how you're going to get tires for your car, all that stuff. That I'm not saying forget that stuff. What I'm saying is it's incompatible with what I'm talking about. That's the thing. It's not like a lot of this self-help is like, I think of it as female self-help. It's like, you can do it, you just get on your mind on it. Like you can force yourself, you can energize yourself. Nope. This is another power I'm talking about. It's a peaceful power. It's the power of observation. Okay? So there's the introduction, final introduction. The book I want you to listen to, I'm going to put the link below, is My First Summer in the Sierra by John Muir. John Muir is a character. Okay, this guy is amazing. And I grew up a lot in towns, either in the Southwest, and I heard John Muir's name a lot. And, there was a lot of like parks and things named after him. And of course, a great man like that, you're going to have a lot of people try to use his name to create organizations, political things, and all that. But I would say forget all that. Watch the way his mind thinks. So if you feel stressed, I want you to put this book on, okay, and walk around. Just walk around and listen to this book. And I don't mean listen to the first 5 minutes and think you know the whole book. I'm talking about listen to the whole book. Find a way you can listen to it on the way to work, driving in your car. You can listen to 20 minutes and then you can turn it back on, another 20 minutes. Whatever it is, just keep track. What I do when I have something, let's say I have a busy schedule and I'm super busy. I'm not right now, but in different times in my life, I would be very busy, or I'd be reading like 10 audiobooks at once. What I would do is I'd make a list of this audiobook, 235, and then this audiobook, 65, 26. And then I put the exact time of when I finished listening to that book, and I would go back to that book, and then I could just slowly add on the times, right? Using Evernote or Simple Note or whatever, something like that. So go ahead and listen to that book. Get into his mindset. Don't try to change your life. Go into another mindset, and this is what he does. I don't even know how to put it into words, but what he does is an incredible thing. And once you do what he does, okay, I'm not going to tell you what it is because you kind of have to listen to it, and maybe you can comment and tell me what he does, because I'm not even sure what he does. All I know is I do that too. Whatever he's doing in that book, I do the same thing, and then just do it. Just do it. That's all you got to do. You don't need a lot of self-control. You don't need a caffeine pill. You know what I mean? Just go ahead and listen to it and enjoy. I think if you want to add any extra to it, you could go walking outside. Walking is a good way to listen to this book. And I want to make a shout out to Steve in Florida because I think you're really going to like this technique. And the thing is when you are in nature, okay, a lot of the MGTOW channels even talk about having a simple life and going in nature. But if I look at their life, and I have seen some videos, they are inside of a house watching TV in the middle of nowhere. They don't have any friends. They're isolated. And they're somewhat like, I don't, mean that they're like this, but I mean, I think of it as the Unabomber thinking. This is not at all what I'm talking about. Okay, this is not at all. It's not a getting away. It's not a running away because this and that, because this. No, it's a going towards. You're going towards probably the most real thing that exists on this planet, and that is this planet itself. And by doing that, not only will you find a new avenue for thinking that you can go into anytime you want to. Once you get his way of thinking, you will be able to go into that mode on other issues, on other topics. This gives you another tool in your toolbox for living, and a very, very powerful tool. A very, very powerful tool. Thank you very much. I wanted to say one last thing about John Muir, which I learned in a California history class, which I think is really great, is that just a quick story. If you're from San Francisco, you've been in California ever, there is a valley called Yosemite Valley, and this is the most beautiful thing. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. I grew up going to Yosemite because my parents used to take us to a lot of national parks, and this was the most memorable national park. And when I went around the world, when I was in my early 20s, I was looking for another Yosemite. I thought, because kids think whatever they see is normal. I thought there was going to be like 100 Yosemites. Like, I'd just go to one in Norway, one in Switzerland, one in South America, one in China. I'll just go to these different Yosemite level areas. And I just didn't find it. I was always disappointed. There was nothing for me as beautiful as Yosemite. I never found anything as beautiful as Yosemite. I found a ton of beautiful places, and I don't mean that as a disappointment. And then I realized, I went back and thought about that. Why is Yosemite so special? Yosemite is special because of the unique geography of the way it was created, right? It was created by an iceberg, a massive iceberg that was so huge and heavy that it slowly moved down the valley and cut all of the granite rocks in half. So it's a really unique valley. But, I don't know, you probably didn't know this, but there's actually two Yosemites. One was called Hetch Hetchy. Hetch Hetchy, just like Yosemite. So imagine that a massive, glacier cuts through granite rock, because it's all granite up there, the mountains, the Sierra Nevada. So it cuts through the granite. So what you have is a long, a trench, like a granite trench, which is perfect for holding water, because it's waterproof. All you got to do is put a dam on each end, and you got yourself the massive reservoir. Well, that's what they did with Hetch Hetchy. There was two Yosemites, right, pretty much identical, and they put a wall, and they started filling one up, and then that San Francisco uses that for one of their, I don't know if it's their main water source anymore, but it's one of their main ones. And it was so cheap and so easy, right, because it makes so much sense logistically. Right, it's up in the mountains, so naturally gravity takes the water down to San Francisco. The water is super clean. It's very cheap to make. The problem is that the world lost one of the most beautiful, pristine wildlife locations that ever seen, ever made, ever experienced. And John Muir, he knew that because he used to go to Hetch Hetchy before they dammed it up. And he considered it a total tragedy. So what he did was he got a hold. I don't know how he did it. He was getting pretty famous. John Muir was getting pretty famous. He got a hold of Teddy Roosevelt, TR, and sent him a message and said, "Hey, you could," because Teddy Roosevelt, the government, was going to dam up Yosemite. They were going to do it because it was it worked once, it'll work again. Nobody had really been up there, so they didn't really. The people didn't realize how beautiful, how wonderful Yosemite was, or Hetch Hetchy. So he told Teddy, he said, "Look," and TR was he was a maverick, right? And he said, "Look, you got to get up here." I don't know if he had known him as a friend before, but anyway, he said, "You got to get up here. You got to see this. You got to see this. You cannot do this without seeing this." And so TR actually ditched his guards, I don't know what he did, if he climbed out at night of his house or, somehow he ditched his guards, and he went with John Muir, the two of them together. And I can imagine how wonderful this trip was. They spent, I don't know how long it was, but a significant period of time together in Yosemite. And John Muir showed him the beauty of the Yosemite Valley. Teddy Roosevelt, long story short, he came back, and obviously he said, "No way are we going to dam up this. I don't know what you're going to do about water, but you're not going to ruin this place. And he made it into a national park. And so I believe he did it right after. Anyway, he saved it. I know for sure he saved it. I believe he actually made it to a national park because I know that John Muir was pretty fundamental in saving environments. And the last thing I want to say, and if you listen to this book, you don't hear, there's no politics in this book. There's no judgment in this book. It's just fucking sheer man's curiosity and the beauty of this very world that we live in that's all around us. And there is no weirdness in this book. But a lot of people, will use this for political means. I believe that John Muir wanted to save a beautiful thing. That was his main goal. Now, once that's been done, as time passes, obviously different groups, and I'm not talking about environmentalism, I'm not talking about the environment, and I'm not talking about global warming, any of this stuff. A lot of groups hijack what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that every man will fundamentally understand and almost bring you to tears. It's so beautiful. And avoid all this other stuff that people try to they find something real and then they hijack it and they use it. I'm saying go back. Find this part of your mind because your mind is just ripe for this kind of thing. Anyway, let me know. Those are my thoughts this morning. I hope that is helpful. It was very helpful for me, and this mindset is one of my secret weapons, actually. Because when I can't solve something, I can go and enjoy the beauty of the world. And when I do that, I realize that the other stuff is not as important as I thought. I realize a lot of things when I'm doing what John does in this book. I realize a lot of things. A lot of things, that priorities and clarity, it comes when I do this. And it's not by solving it. You can't get there from here. It's not by solving it. Okay? It's something deep. It's something very, 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 very deep. Anyway, guys, there's my thoughts for the morning. I hope you guys have a good day.